Hello everyone, I'm Johnny Delgado and welcome back to part 2 of the arrays series. Today we're going to talk about two-dimensional arrays, and this has its own video because it gets a little complex. So we've talked about arrays and how to create them and how you set a specific size and how to check their length and even how to get the specific value of a single element of an array. But all of this has been in the context of single one-dimensional arrays. This could look like, I used an egg carton if every single part was numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. What happens when you want to deal with multiple dimensions of information? And you're probably wanting to stop me and say, hey Johnny, this is way too complex. I'm not some physicist thinking about many dimensions. You're already familiar with something very similar to two-dimensional arrays. Many cells in not just a linear fashion, but something that deals with two dimensions. When you use Excel or Google Sheets, you can think of it as a grid. That's probably the easiest way to conceptualize it. Let's make a new array, and let's make it an array of doubles. So it's a primitive type, so lowercase. So double. This is how you'd create a one-dimensional array, and I'll start with that. Equals new double. Oh, I keep forgetting to name these. I'll call this 1D array equals new double, and let's make this size 2. So we can create this, that's fine, and why doesn't it like this name? Oh, I haven't used it yet, that's fine. And let's try to get its length. So we would say 1D array dot length. Now, if you remember from the last video, you know what? Pause it and take a guess. What will this print out? If you guessed 2, ignore the previous stuff. We're not working with any of that right now. Let's make things easier for you. There we go. If we run this, it'll just print out 2 because we've said in this array we want it to be of length 2. Now, what happens if I make a two-dimensional array? How do we do that? You add another square bracket set. And for the difference, let's do this. Now, this is saying create an array of doubles with 2 rows and 3 columns. That's the best way to think about it, I think. It's probably the easiest way to conceptualize this. You can think about this as an array of arrays. So, first of all, let's go ahead and take a guess. What is this going to print out? And you know what? For the sake of truth, we're going to call this now 2D array. What do you think is going to print? Pause the video and take a guess. We're looking for the length of this 2D array. Still 2. Now you might be thinking, whoa, Johnny, this is too much. We've changed this from an array with 2 elements to now, I can tell you, because this is a 2x3 array, there are 6 elements in here. You multiply these 2 numbers together to get how many elements there are, and you can think about this like a grid. Why is the length still 2? Well, when we talk about the length of a 2D array, it's looking for how many of the first number there are, how many rows there are in this case. So it's looking for that. If we want to get the length of the second number, if we're trying to see how many columns there are, we would do this and then put in some value. So this is saying, okay, go to the first row, the row at index 0, and then tell me the length of that. Because I say think of this like cells on an Excel spreadsheet. It's really not. It's really an array of arrays. So it's easy for us to think about it like so this, we can think of it like this. We absolutely can, because there are 6 slots. If we consider the first value to be the, or in this case, no, sorry, I said row then column. So it would look like this. If I say the first number corresponds to the first row and the second number, or the first number corresponds to rows, and there are 1, 2 rows, and the second number corresponds to how many columns are in each row. But it's not quite that. What it really is going from starting out with an array that has two elements. So we can look at it like this. There's a space for something in this slot and something in this slot. That's an array of length 2. That's a one-dimensional array of length 2. And I'll write that down. So that's what that would look like. Now, if we're saying a 2D array of 2, 3, what that ends up looking like is starting off with the same, hold on, sorry. The automatic formatting is getting to me. You're starting off with the same thing here, but you're saying, okay, hey, I'm going to start off with 2 different things, 2 different places. And in each one of those places, I'm going to put a new array of size 3. Now, we know what an array of size 3 looks like. It would look like this. In each one of those spaces, put that. So then we would see, you know what, let's, for clarity, give you an easier key to follow. And just so it stops complaining about my formatting, there we go. So if this is a one-dimensional array of length 2, a single array with 2 slots, and this is a one-dimensional array of length 3, a single array with 1, 2, 3 slots. If we want a 2-dimensional array of 2, 3, that's saying first, create an array with 2 slots, and in the first slot, put an array with 3 slots. And in the second slot, in the second of this, put another array with 3 slots. Now, I don't like the way this looks. This is kind of complicated. So I'm going to instead write it like this for clarity. This might be easier to see. Or, if you prefer, you can think of it like this. one array with 3 slots, and another array with 3 slots. And this is probably how you will more commonly see it written, which gets a little wonky. But what you need to remember, the big complex thing that all of this is trying to say is we are creating an array with 2 slots, and in each of those slots we're putting in an array of size 3. So in this situation, that's why saying system.out.println at its base, this says how many of the bigger slots are there. And that answer is, as we said, 2. But if we want to check the first cell and say, in that first cell, you have an array. What's the length of that array? And that is 3. So now, all of this crazy complexity, I would recommend just thinking of 2-dimensional arrays like Excel spreadsheets and just remembering, if I'm looking for rows, the things in the first one, just say, just put, if I'm looking for the length of rows, just do that. And if I want the columns, do what we did before. So how do we set values in certain positions in an array, a 2-dimensional array? Well, if we remember what we did before, we said, okay, we would have the array, specify our cell in the array, and then set a value. And that's exactly what we would do down here. Except, because it's a 2D array, we need to specify each location. And remember, we start counting at 0. So the cell in 0, 0, I'll set to 0. And let me just, you know what, let's do this a bunch of times and set each one of the slots. And what I want to do is create something that says 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the arrays. So first, I'll go, I'll change the values in the columns. So this will be 0, 1, 2, and then same thing. Now we move on to the second row, and we go 0, 1, 2. And these can all store different numbers. And these are doubles, so they could store decimals as well. And we save it and run it, and everything looks fine. So if I say, go ahead and print out the value at position 2, 1, for example. I would just need to say that. And, oh, sorry, no, there is no 2, 1. At 1, 1, the second row, and yeah, this would be the second row, second column. There we go. Because 1, 1 we've declared as 4. So it's a little abstract. It depends on what you need this information for. You can create ways that make more sense to, examples that matter more than my just counting random cells. But it really depends on your use cases. For example, you could have 2 corresponding arrays where one of them is an array of 1-dimensional strings that represent student names. And the other array is a multi-dimensional array of exam grades. And your rows could correspond to each of the assignments. This could be, let's, well, I'll just verbally talk through it. This could be, if there are 7 assignments, we could say 7 assignments. And if you had 12 students, you would have maybe 12 different columns. Or no, it would be the reverse. If you had 12 students, each of the 12 students would be here, and each of your assignment grades would be there. Just because personally I would want to write it student, 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 and then first assignment, second assignment, third assignment in the columns. And then if you wanted to, say, get all of student number 2's assignments, you could print out every single assignment of student 2. So you could go, this would be their first assignment, this would be their second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and so on. Or if you wanted to print out every single student's assignment or every single student's grade for assignment 3, let's say you're trying to check the averages, you would change the student number and you would put this at 3 or 2, whatever your index is for that, and set this as the variable amount. And there's a lot of powerful combinations between loops and arrays, because, you know, if you can imagine setting a 100 dimensional or a one-dimensional array with 100 slots, you could set it automatically with a loop that would just set your values accordingly. And then you could also get them with a loop. So every time you loop through, it prints out a different one. Let's say we make this a variable and we say print out I equals 0, then print I equals 1, then print I equals 2, and so forth. You could get every single student's grade for that particular assignment. So I know this was a bit complex, weirder, higher level thinking, but hopefully it can be a good reference for you in terms of how to create and utilize two-dimensional arrays. So thank you so much for watching. Good luck with your programming. I've been Johnny Delgado. Have a great one. Bye.